Greetings, gamer guys and gals. This is one last one. I'm bringing you another Magic the Gathering video. A little bit different today. We're actually going to be talking about a specific card and how it's doing in Standard, and that is Collected Company. I know that everybody, including myself, is sick of hearing about this card, sick of playing against it, and sick of seeing it. But until it rotates out, it's part of the format. We have to deal with it. But why am I discussing it today? I'm discussing it because I've played standard formats like the Siege Rhino era. I've played in like the mono black, mono blue, devotion days of like the Theros constructed block and like all this stuff. And back then people were saying like Siege Rhino was too good. Yes, that card was very powerful. A 4 or 5 trampler that drains them for 3 for 4 mana. That's not to be questioned. That is a very powerful card. But if you look at Siege Rhino, it has like it could cost 5 or 6 and still be okay. The fact it cost 4 made it a little too good. But just a little, but you could get around it. If you played correctly, you could survive the Siege Rhino onslaught. Collected Company, however, is just it saw the line and just smashed over it. It erased that and drew it some way over there, right? Just over there somewhere. Why do I think this card is blatantly overpowered for a standard environment right now? If you look at the card, Collected Company, it says look at the top 6 cards of your library. So that's scrying. Scry 6. If anyone's familiar with Magic, scrying lets you look at the top card of your library for however many times you scry, and then you can either keep it on top or put it on the bottom, right? This doesn't specifically say scry, but this is what you do. You look at the top 6, okay? And if anyone, I would say that scrying is about worth maybe a half a mana. Right, half a mana worth of value. So you're looking at 3 already. Three converted mana just from the looking at the top 6 cards in your library. You then get to draw 2 cards. Look at Divination. It was the standard draw spell for last 2-3 years, right? 3 mana, draw 2 cards, sorcery speed. That's balanced, right? The new catalog is instant, but then you have to discard a card, which isn't too bad, but just keep that in mind. So you're at 6 mana already, right? 6 mana. And then you get to basically play non-land permanents at instant speed. Leyline of Anticipation is the only thing I can think of that specifically is every type of card except the land. So that's 4 mana. You're at 10 already. 10 mana at instant speed. Then you get to play these creatures without paying their mana cost. That is Omniscience. That's 10 mana. That's 20 mana alone worth of value just from the card, not even what you get from it. And I'll explain why what you get from it is even more broken, especially right now in Standard. So keeping that in mind, Collected Company, I estimate having around 20 mana worth of value. Looking at cards in Magic and what the effects do, I would say about 20. Now, in Standard right now, in the Bant Coco list is very specifically a deck that I don't mind playing against the Bant lists. I love what's in the Bant lists, except Collected Company. I don't even mind Dramoka's Command as much. Yeah, it's a little abusive, but Collected Company is downright just not even fun to play against. So if you think about Standard right now, there's 10 to 11 threats costing 3 mana or less in green, white, and blue. I made a list about the creatures that you can get off Collected Company that I see on a daily basis online. The biggest ones that I see, excuse me, are your Sylvan Advocates, your Duskwash Recruiters, your Tireless Trackers, to somewhat Nissa and a couple other fringe ones, but those are kind of fringe. So really at its worst, Collected Company at its worst when you whiff, right? You still get a scry 6. You gotta still siphon through your deck. So even if you don't hit anything, which is very, very rare, you typically hit at least one creature. I've very, very rarely seen a Collected Company not hit at least one thing. So even if you miss, you get a scry 6 and shift it all to your bottom of your library. Let's see, you rip 5 lands in like an instant. Well, you didn't need those lands because you already have 4, and everything in your deck costs 3 or less. So shift that to the bottom, and then start drawing into relevant threats, right? So at very worst, you're getting scry 6 for 4 mana at instant speed. Not bad. But at the very best, in Standard right now, if you think about it, Collected Company, roughly 20 mana worth of value. Spell Queller, now with Eldritch Boon, you get a 2/3 flying body that exiles a spell with converted mana cost 4 or less. So you counter a spell at 3 mana, right? So that's 3 converted mana cost just from the countering effect. And then you get a 2/3 flyer, which I would roughly say in most limited formats and even constructed formats that I've seen, anything with 2 power in the air costs about 2 mana. Maybe 3, sometimes 2 if it's a 2/1. But it's a 2/3, pretty relevant, so it's 3. So that's 6 mana. And then you get to hit Reflector Mage with that as well. You get a 2/3 Mana War. If anyone's familiar with Mana War, you bounce a creature. But then they don't get to play that creature and any creatures with the same name until their next turn. So you get a Time Walk effect. So you get a 2/3 body on the ground. You bounce a creature, which is 3 converted mana cost alone. So you get 3 from the Mana War, 3 from the Reflector Mage. So you get 6. And then you get to Time Walk, which is 8. Okay? So you get 20 from Collected Company, you get 8 from Reflector Mage, and you get 6 from Spell Queller. Okay? That's 32 converted mana cost worth of effect for 4 at instant speed. That is just not even fair in Standard right now. I've never played against a card that is less fun than this card right here. The reason I think, I would say, I know it rotates out in 3 months and we don't have to deal with it in Standard right now. This thing should have gotten banned months ago. This card is just stupid. It bottlenecks Standard in a way that it forces the question of most Magic players. Why should I play anything else? I can't play my sweet decks. Like, I really love playing these super kind of fringe decks, and I know people are gonna say, quit being a unique snowflake if you wanna compete. I'm not even talking about competing, just having fun in Magic. If you go to an FNM, or even if you go on like a PTQ online, if you run into 7 out of 10 collected Coco decks, or Bant, or any kind of list like this, you're not gonna have fun. Because it's gonna be the same match over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And it gets boring very fast. And the bad thing about Collected Company is that you see it coming and you still can't do anything about it. You can't just not play your deck. You have to play into this thing. And most times you play into it, even though you know it's coming, you're like, well, I'm going to play this creature or this whatever, and it's just going to get countered or bounced or whatever. It begs the question to be like, well, why should I play anything else? If this is the most powerful deck, by far, the most powerful deck in Standard, and it has answers to literally everything that anybody else can play, why play anything else? Like, if you look at a season ago, and I say season like a whole block, if you look at like the Dragons of Tarkir, Fate Reforged, Khans of Tarkir block with like the Siege Rhino decks, the Abzan mid-range. Yes, Abzan mid-range was definitely the deck to play. It had all the relevant planeswalkers, all the great threats, all the good creatures, spells, all that stuff, right? But you could play other decks. There was Jeskai Black. There was, there was Esper Dragons. I saw some, Mardu Dragons, Mardu Control, Jeskai Control. There was like at least a handful, maybe 8 to 10, like top tier, maybe like second tier decks that you could take to an FNM or a PTQ or a Pro Tour and do well with, and actually have a diverse matchup, because you're not always just going to run into the same deck. I've gone to FNMs for like the last. I haven't gone to an FNM, I should say, in the last month and a half, because the last 3 months I've went, it's all collected company. And I can't even begin to tell you how many more I'm probably going to see now because of Spell Queller and some of the new cards that came out in Elder's Moon. So it makes me wonder why Wizards keep printing cards to fuel this card. Like, if this had maybe 2 creatures, if it had like Reflector Mage and like Advocate, and that's it. If every other creature in Standard right now, the Spell Quellers, the Tireless Trackers, the Mausoleum Wanderers, the Selfless Spirits, all these things, if they didn't work for Collected Company, Standard would be more balanced. It would be much more well-rounded. You'd see more decks. And yes, you'd still see Coco, but it wouldn't be nearly as oppressive. It's not fun Magic when you know you're going to lose to this card, and you know when they're going to play it, and you still lose. It's not fun. It's just not fun Magic. Knowing this card's coming, knowing you're going to lose to it, and knowing you can't play around it, why play Standard? I love Standard. I love seeing what you can do with a very limited card pool. But the card pool for this specific deck and this specific archetype is too much. Wizard, please, for the love of God, if you make a card like this again, please do not print 15 different cards that can play into this. Please. It doesn't make for fun Magic. I know that everyone would bitch and complain if they nerf this card or banned it because, oh, I don't care, okay? If you want to hop on the bandwagon and net deck with the pros, do it. If you're really concerned about competing and winning, then do it. I'm not here to discredit anyone that is trying to, actually make it in Magic. But for someone like me who takes it as a serious hobby and I really enjoy Magic, if I can't even do that, if I can't even casually enjoy it because of one card, why play? I play online because I personally don't have money for these cards anymore. I can't afford it financially. But even though it's free online, I still sometimes don't like playing just because of this card. And like, it seems like ever since it was printed, Wizards specifically went out of their way to make this deck just broken. It is broken, man. Being able to bounce creatures, prevent board wipes, counter spells, get 5/6s on the field, sometimes bigger than that. It just doesn't make sense, man. I just don't understand it. Like, I really hope, in the next Standard format, after this rotates out and we get into Kaladesh, I know there's always going to be that one deck in Standard. I know there's always going to be the next hot thing. Whatever the pros are playing, whatever they take to the Pro Tour, and whatever wins is always going to be like on everybody's radar. It's always going to be the deck. But as someone who plays to compete with those decks, I want to be able to know that there's other ways to play the game and be about 80, maybe 90% successful as the most popular decks. But as it stands now, if you want to play Standard and be very successful, you play Coco, you play Bant. Because it has literally every answer in Standard to everything every opponent can play. No matter what deck you play, this deck has an answer to it. And it crushes the field so much, so badly, that when I play against it online, I immediately get mad because I know it's coming and I'm not going to have fun because I just wasted 30 minutes, maybe to an hour of my time playing against a deck that I either am going to lose to horribly or I'm just going to steamroll. Like, I get lucky sometimes against Bant and Coco list, and they kind of draw dead. But that's so few and far between. That's like 1 out of 10 games, right? So it's just, I don't know, man. It's just stupid. I know this is kind of a long video, guys, and it's a little bit of a rant. But I'm not alone on this one. I've talked to so many people, and I know people that don't even play Magic anymore, and they're waiting for certain cards to rotate out, and this is like the top of their list. So please, Wizards, please, if you want to print a card like this again, make it cost almost double this mana. If this was a 7 mana instant, it would be okay. At 6, it would be great. But at 4, it's total bullshit. Please, Wizards, do not print another card like this. I don't want to keep playing against decks like this. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents on this, guys. I'm sorry for the rant, but I can't help it. I absolutely hate this card, and if it were to just go away, Standard would be a lot more fun, and I think I'm not the only one that thinks that way. So, if you guys liked the video, if you've made it this far, thanks for sticking around. You can leave comments in the below. Let me know what you guys think about it. If people like Coco and they like Bant, then, you know, people like it, and I can't do anything about it. But I can tell you what, if I was at Wizards, this card would not get through testing through R&D without some more mana attached to it, to basically say the least. So, thanks again, guys. I hope you liked the video. Hit the like button down there. I really appreciate it. I'm 1less1, and I'll see you next time.